are not aware, most Americans, I would say, especially on the left, are not aware that the reason why the world is basically slave-free is because of Great Britain. You see, slavery was an institution that no one questioned at all. Since the beginning of recorded history, all the way to the British said enough. We can thank religion for that. We can thank the Church of England for that one. There was no economic incentive to do that. It was purely a moral incentive. And the point of this video is to illustrate that basic history. You have people working as journalists. This idiot, Don Lemon, asked if the Queen should pay reparations for slavery. If you knew that Great Britain freed most of the slaves on the planet, and they took great pains to free the African slaves because Ivory Coast was not having it, neither were the Muslims. They faced the most resistance from the Ivory Coast. They had to go over there and bomb the fucking Ivory Coast, while blacks ran and freed them from chains, because it was the African warlords that were bringing down the Africans and selling them to the Europeans and mostly the Arabs that were still doing human trafficking with slavery after Great Britain, by pain of death, outlawed slavery. Basically, if the English caught you transporting slaves, they'd kill you on the spot. So what a lot of what the Africans and the Muslims would do, that if there was a British coming on board, they just throw the slaves overboard, slit their throat. I mean, I could go in. But we, especially brown people, all over the planet, have to definitely be grateful to Great Britain. And this video is about that. And it'll feature one of the biggest jackasses I've seen in my life, which is Don Lemon. Let's go.
Well, I think you're right about reparations in terms of if people want it, though, what they need.
He asked this lady if English should pay reparation for slavery on the week of Her Majesty's death. Very classy, this guy.
To do is you always need to go back to the beginning of a supply chain. Where was the beginning of the supply chain? That was in Africa, and when across the entire world, when slavery was taking place, which was the first nation in the world that abolished slavery? The first nation in the world to abolish it. It was started by William Wilberforce, was the British. In Great Britain, they abolished slavery. 2,000 naval men died on the high seas trying to stop slavery. Why? Because the African kings were rounding up their own people. They had them on cages waiting in the beaches. No one was running into Africa to get them. And I think you're totally right. If reparations need to be paid, we need to go right back to the beginning of that supply chain and say who was rounding up their own people and having them handcuffed in cages. Absolutely. That's where they should start. And maybe, I don't know, the descendants of those families where they died in the high seas trying to stop the slavery, that those families should receive something too, I think, at the same time.
It's an interesting discussion, Hillary. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. We'll continue to discuss in the future.
Pathetic. That was pathetic. To ask a question like that shows that you are an idiot and you don't know anything, you don't read. You have no respect really for the truth, for history, for talking seriously to another person. And how do you solve a problem if you don't have the facts ready? Now let's see the backlash.